everybody. I'm Laura Trump coming to you from my home in New York. After great sacrifices, the American people are ready to get back to work and get back to their regular lives. Joining me is former governor of Arkansas and former presidential candidate Mike Huckabee. Governor Huckabee, welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you, Laura. It's a delight to be with you again, even though it has to now be socially distant and safe for everybody. But it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, we'll take you any way we can get you, and hopefully we can all be together again soon. But obviously we want to talk about the situation we're in this country. Americans have really sacrificed so much in this crisis. I think we all are tired of being quarantined, off of work, kids out of school. What do you think, Governor? Is it time for most of the country to get back to work?
I think we have to. Certainly, we've got to be careful, and I think we've got to be treated like adults. Give us the information, be transparent about what the risks are. But, you know, American people aren't children. They're not 5-year-olds. And I think to some degree, what's beginning to happen is folks are saying, look, we want to get back to work. Governors are saying, let's open up our economies. I think the president has handled this exactly right. And I say this from a governor's perspective. He's respected the 10th Amendment that says that if it's not in the Constitution, then it's not the federal government's decision, it's the state's decision. So the president has basically said, if you're a governor and you want to begin to ramp your economy back up and start opening, you make that decision. You take the precautions and let us know how it works out. We're all watching. And I think that's the right approach. It's the approach that I would have been begging for if I'd been a governor. And I think it's the approach that is gaining the respect of governors, including some of the president's great Democratic governor critics like Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom. I saw him with Governor John Bel Edwards of Louisiana, and just today with Phil Murphy from New Jersey, all Democrats, none of whom are fans of this president, but yet every one of them have praised the president for two things. First, giving them the assets and resources they needed when they asked for it. And the second thing is respecting their role as governors and allowing them to make the decisions in their own states for when it's right to open things back up.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to see, to your point, how so many that have very recently, before the coronavirus situation, been very critical of this president. Many Democrat governors have been very complimentary of the way he's handled things. And you know that was pretty hard for them to get out, Governor. I mean,
yeah.
You know, they don't throw those around loosely. But you were a governor of a state. You manage many crises. How would you handle reopening a state economy?
I think I'd look at it by individual counties and communities in the same way that we're looking at it for individual states. In a large urban area where there is dense population and where there is a pretty high infection rate, you're a little more careful. You do things a little more slowly. But when you're out in the rural areas, when there's virtually no infection rate, I think you start giving people the opportunity to get back into their norms of life. That's what I'm seeing happen in states, again, whether they're led by Democrat or Republican governors. Granted, some of the Democrat governors are a little slower. Some, frankly, are obstinate. They don't want to open it at all. I wonder, why did you get elected to run a state if you're just going to lock the doors and turn off the lights? Lead. Don't just shut it down forever. That's impossible and impractical. Now, I want to be very clear that the Democrat governors who have been very effusive in their praise for the president, I don't think they're going to show up at the Republican convention and make a speech for him. And I'm sure they're going to go back to the criticism soon. But it's out there for the world to see that when the people of the press, and they have been so vicious toward the president, but when they go out and say, well, the president wasn't responsive and the president didn't help and the president turned his back on the states, all we got to do is roll the tape. And from Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom and Phil Murphy and on and on and on, you're going to hear Democrat governors say, when we ask this president for assistance, we got it, and we got it immediately.
Yep. Well, Mike, you obviously know what it's like to run for president. You have done that before. Joe Biden on the Democrat
thanks for reminding me of that. That was...
It was a different time, a different situation.
Yeah.
But you know how out in front and out in the public you have to be. This situation has allowed Joe Biden to hide in his basement, and yet he criticizes the president every step of the way, every single chance he gets. But I think it's become very obvious to the American people that the leader we need going forward after we get out of this crisis, because we will get through this coronavirus and we will come out on the other side, is someone like Donald Trump who understands the economy, who understands how to get people back to work. Why is President Trump the best leader to restore our economy and get things back up and running in this country versus Joe Biden?
Well, let's take the president's qualifications first. He's resourceful. He is willing to try things that have not been tried. He's willing to think out loud and think out of, I hate to use this worn out phrase, think out of the box, but he does those things. And he has taken specific measures, not just in terms of the coronavirus, but the deregulation of businesses made the economy really like it was running on rocket fuel before the virus hit. The tax cuts. These are factors that led to the highest ever stock market, which is not about rich people. It's about retired teachers and retired firemen whose retirement accounts are dependent upon a good marketplace. We would be in far worse trouble right now if the economy had not been so very strong going into the virus. But what we have seen in the president is surrounding himself top quality leaders and scientists, listening to their advice. And I don't care what the media says, he's taken their advice. When people say, well, he's not listening to the experts around him, looks like to me he did. Even Dr. Fauci, who the left loves to emulate, and he's a brilliant guy. But in early February, he himself said, this isn't going to be a big problem for us.
That's
so
right.
When people say, well, the president should have known this, well, the president acted prior to that by shutting down travel from China. So I think what the president has done is methodically and systematically approach this as it became more and more apparent that we had a bigger crisis. But now that we realize that the worst case scenarios haven't happened, he's not going to lock us down for the rest of the year. He understands that people need to be at work. A government check is maybe a wonderful thing, but it's not more wonderful than a job. And when government checks become something people get dependent upon, it'll be really hard for them to get back to work. So that's on the one side. Let me quickly move to what we've seen with Joe Biden. I've kind of expected Joan London to come out and make a commercial talking about a place for Joe. Because what we've seen is he has been relegated to, I guess, his basement or wherever he is. The sad thing, he clearly has the capacity to script his remarks and to be very careful and even to edit them. But if this is the best he can do in communicating when he comes out and sleeps through Hillary's endorsement, when he puts together chopped word salad every time he's asked questions that he's not prepared to answer, when he can't keep up with his own notes, I think people are saying, this guy's not ready to be in the Oval Office. And frankly, he's just showing that this is not a time for America to put someone in place who may not honestly remember the difference between his wife and his sister. And certainly somebody who is now saying things against the president that are in direct opposition to things that he said just 2 months ago. He's clearly revealed why this is not a time to put Joe Biden in the driver's seat.
Well, Mike, I want to give you an opportunity. Obviously, you're quarantined at home. I'm still quarantined at home. Most people in this country are as well. Any words you want to say to the American people? Anything you found that has helped get you through to this point?
I think the opportunity to sort of be still, in this case, not out of choice, but out of necessity, but to reflect upon what really matters in life. I had so many events. I was going to be gone probably 20, 25 days a month in March and April and May. Everything got canceled. I found that being with my family, having time at home that I wouldn't have had, I try to look at that as a very positive thing and realize that sometimes the things we put on the pedestal as very valuable aren't as valuable as those dearest and closest to us. So this has been a good time of reflection. It's been a terrible time for income and for people trying to figure out how will we manage on the brokenness of our economy. But I also know that there are two things about the American people we can count on. One, they're resourceful, they'll find a way. And two, they're resilient. The American people have a way of bouncing back. And the reason for that is because of our individual sense of freedom and liberty. The single greatest thing we have in all of this is that we're not dependent upon government taking care of us. We're ultimately going to say, this is my life. I'm going to live it. I'm going to find a way to get through it. And we're going to find out what America is truly all about. And it's one reason that we need to make sure the president is reelected, because he respects that, he understands it. And when I watch the people on the far left, they want government to be our God. They want government to decide when we wake up and go to bed and what medicines we can take and which ones we can't, and whether or not we can walk in certain places and breathe in certain places. That's not America. And I hope a lot of Americans see the contrast. We certainly have one this year.
Yeah, that is for sure. Great words from Governor Mike Huckabee. Thank you so much for being back with us, and we wish you and your entire family safe and well at this time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Laura. God bless.
While we must all remain vigilant, Americans are ready to reopen the economy and get back to work. That's the real news for today. If you'd like to get involved with Team Trump, go to donaldjtrump.com or download the official Trump 2020 app from the App Store or the Google Play Store. I'm Laura Trump, coming to you from my home in New York, encouraging you to stay safe throughout this crisis. Thanks for joining us, everybody.